High availability. CA EEM high availability configuration on Windows. In this module, we will learn how to configure CA EEM in failover mode for high availability on Windows. Prerequisites and considerations. Before start the CA EEM failover configuration, synchronize the system time of all servers in the failover setup. Verify that all CA EEM servers are configured in the same security mode, non-FIPS or FIPS only. Verify that DNS lookup resolves host names of all the servers in the failover setup. For more information, refer to the CA EEM documentation. In this video, we will demonstrate the setup of a failover environment for CA EEM to achieve high availability on Windows. For this demonstration, we have CA EEM already installed on 2 servers running standalone. The first server is the EEM PRIW. This server will be the CA EEM primary server. And the second server is the EEM SECW. This server will be the CA EEM secondary server. If we go back to EEM and review the services, we can see the 2 CEM services are running. If we go to the secondary server and check the status of the services, both CEM services are also running. If we go now to a web browser and log into CEM on the primary server, the EEM PRIW, we have logged in successfully. If we navigate and go to the users, we can see we don't have any users yet on this server. We go now to the secondary server, the EEM SECW, and log in with the admin user. We logged in successfully. If we navigate and go to the users, we can see we don't have any users yet on this server either. We already have CEM running on each server. Now we must configure them for failover. With this configuration, every change made to one component of the failover will be reflected in the other. The 2 CA EEM databases must be synchronized. Before starting the failover configuration process, you must synchronize the system time of all servers in the failover configuration. Verify that all CA EEM servers are configured in the same security mode, non-FIPS or FIPS only. Verify that the DNS lookup resolves the host names of all servers in the failover setup. To configure CA EEM in failover, we must follow the steps. We open a command prompt on the primary server and set up the home directory variable for the CA EEM. Let's go to the secondary server and we'll do the same. We set up the home directory variable for the CA EEM on this server. Now we set up the Java home directory variable on the primary server. We go to the secondary and do the same. And include the Java JRE bin directory in the path variable. We do the same on the secondary server. Now we go to the CA EEM bin directory on the primary server. And also on the secondary server. We go back to the primary server and execute the following command: java jar EEM cluster setup.jar. We answer yes. And enter the command reset primary. We press Enter to accept the default DSA port. We select Option 1 to choose internal failover. Option 2 is to use an external load balancer or reverse proxy. The summary appears. We will configure this server as the primary failover node. We answer yes. It is recommended to back up the configuration and data store before starting this procedure. The configuration process is executed. The services are starting. We enter now the status command. We confirm that both services have started. Exit the program. We completed the configuration for the primary server. Now we must configure the secondary server. We execute the command again to configure the secondary server. We answer yes. And here enter the Add option to include the secondary server. We enter the secondary server name and press Enter to use the default port. The summary appears. It shows we are going to include the secondary server in the failover. Again, it is recommended to back up the configuration and data store before starting this procedure. We answer yes, and the configuration begins. The configuration is completed. We enter the status command, and we can see both services have started. Exit the program. We have completed the failover configuration on the primary server. Now we configure it on the secondary server. We go to the secondary server and execute the command java jar EEM cluster setup.jar, but this time we include the primary server as a parameter. We enter the IAM user password. We answer yes. And we enter the sync command to synchronize the databases. Sync is an option of the EEM cluster setup tool that synchronizes the configuration of the primary server with the secondary servers in the failover environment. This option is available only when you run the tool on the secondary server. We need to provide which is the current server. We enter option 2 for the secondary. Since it's the first time we do this synchronization, we enter option 1. We get a message that the secondary is going to be synchronized with the primary server. We answer yes. And the configuration starts. We type status, and we can see the services are started. With this, we have configured the secondary server. We have finished configuring the primary and the secondary server failover. Once configured, we are going to verify the configuration. We execute again the command java jar EEM cluster setup.jar. We answer yes and enter the list command. It presents a summary of the failover nodes with the primary and secondary nodes. We exit the program. We execute these commands also on the secondary server. We execute the command java jar EEM cluster setup.jar. We answer yes and enter the list command. We get the summary with the list of failover nodes, with the primary and secondary nodes. With this, we know the system is in failover, and now we are going to do some validations. First, we are going to log into the primary CA EEM the EMPRIW with the admin user. Now, we log into the secondary CA EEM with the admin user. We have logged into secondary. We go back to the primary. We are going to test the synchronization between servers. First, we are going to check the users already created on the primary. We don't have any users yet in the primary. So now we are going to create a user. We are going to call it U-PRI-W-1. We enter the password for the user. We save it and check if it has been created. Yes, it was created here in the primary server. Let's go to the secondary server. We are going to check if the user that we created in the primary can be seen in the secondary. And yes, it appears here. Now we will do the opposite. We are going to create a user in the secondary. We are going to call it U-SEC-W-2. We enter the password for the user and save it. We check in the secondary that the user we just created was created successfully, and it appears here. Now we go to the primary and check that it is also there. And it appears in the primary too. With this, we confirm that both databases are synchronizing. We have completed the CA EEM failover configuration for high availability on the Windows platform. In this module, we have learned how to configure CA EEM failover for high availability on Windows. The EEM cluster setup tool is used to configure the failover. The failover setup is done by following these steps. Configure the primary server. Add the secondary server to the primary server. And synchronize the secondary server with the primary server.